Welcome to the joint workshop of syn.ikia, Access, and Cultural E. It's a great pleasure to meet the three projects, but also to meet people outside the projects, because our topic today is very interesting and it's about the multiple benefits. We want to raise awareness about the extra or the co-benefits or multiple benefits. There are different terminologies of projects that are mainly focused on energy efficiency or plus energy buildings, plus energy, sustainable plus energy neighborhoods. But what are the extra values that we can look at? And this is what we are going to discuss, exchange experiences, lessons, if we have lessons learned so far from the three projects, but also beyond the projects. So the agenda for today, and here, the first item is in the welcome message. By the way, I'm Niki Gaitani. I'm associate professor at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, Department of Architecture and Technology. And today I'm wearing this hat, which says project leader for syn.ikia project. And we have with us distinguished speakers from the three projects. We call sister projects. That means we receive funding under the same code. And we are working, all of us, on plus energy buildings, on sustainable plus energy neighborhoods. So buildings and neighborhoods with energy ambition level plus. So we have with us Zuhaib from BPIE, involved in syn.ikia, to talk about the value of multiple benefits of SPENs. And then we have with us Wilmer Pasut from University of Venice, also involved in project culturally, to talk about effective communication towards different stakeholders, how we can use the multiple benefits to trigger the energy efficiency. Later on, we will have an interesting presentation from Joaquin Villar, Andalusian Energy Agency, involved in the Access project, and he will talk about the policy recommendation and how to connect the benefits and when it comes to decision making and when it comes to different policies. Because when it comes to co-benefits or extra benefits, we can see them at different levels. At the household level, when it comes to benefits for the users, benefits for the tenants, benefits for the owners, but at the social level, community level, then it's more like for the benefit from the society, environmental benefits, economical benefits, and then the target group is different, right? So we need an effective communication. So I even started briefly talking a little bit. Here I have an illustration which captures the multiple benefits of energy efficiency. It's quite old, so actually we need to provide more updated, I would say, information when it comes to benefits. Here is at the building level, but we are working also at the neighborhood level. So just to highlight that the direct benefits coming from the spreads of positive energy buildings and sustainable plus energy neighborhoods focus on energy performance and CO2 emission reduction. It's essential to address and acknowledge the indirect effects, and that is the extra impacts that can be achieved, as you can see, at the household or the societal level. Here is the scale that we are working with: plus energy buildings, sustainable plus energy neighborhoods. And I think it is important today to see what multiple benefits are closely associated with these two different scales, and also to perhaps discuss, do neighborhoods give new types of benefits that we need to conceptualize? Actually, we're doing this kind of exercise in syn.ikia, and I guess in the other projects. I forgot to mention that we have the coordinator of Access with us, Andreas.
Tuerk, here on Near Research Austria, leading the project Access, and Anna-Maria Villari is sick, unfortunately. She's leading cultural.
Yeah, maybe the Anna-Maria can hear us online. Is Anna Maria online?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, Anna Maria, it's a
Good morning, everyone.
with us, but you are there with us.
It feels like you're in the room, so all three coordinators are present. Close sense.
Yeah.
I wish I was there, but unfortunately, I was not able to travel yesterday, and today I'm still quite sick. So, but I'll try to follow anyway. Good
Yes.
morning, everyone.
Nice to have you, Anna Maria, even online, and yeah, we wish you well. So after this introduction, we would like to say a little bit more about Slido. We will use this tool today. If you can think, I can say a few words.
Yeah, it's just an active poll to do a warm-up exercise for those online and also those here in the room. So if you want to join, please do here as well. So we can just start. You join by using this QR code, and you can also join, online, slido.com, but it's easier with the phone. And yeah,
That's all.
that's all. And then we'll just start next.
Yeah.
This one. Oh. Yeah. So there are some questions popping up, and then we can see where people are if they are.
Let's try out.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Berlin and Brussels. Okay.
Is everyone in Brussels?
More people are in Brussels.
Yeah. Truth is that initially we were planning to have this event mainly in Brussels, but then we realized we need to expand our audience, and yeah, now it's a hybrid event.
Okay. So most people are in Brussels. That's Bolzano,
Spain, Rome, Sweden.
Oh, cool. And then we can do the next one.
Yes. What is your professional profile? A lot of research.
Yeah.
Academia or research institutes. Yeah, and are you familiar with cultural eats in IKEA and access projects? Somehow I feel that you are. So I wonder if we should skip the presentation. No, I mean the introduction. But it's always useful to remember.
Partially.
Yes, a little bit more about the project. And 18% says no. So for this 18%, we should give some more information, I guess. Yeah. So then I will say a few words about syn.ikia. Syn.ikia is an innovation action. Syn.ikia actually means in Greek neighborhood, but also means syn means plus and ikia means home. So it's about plus energy houses, but we are working on a neighborhood scale. Syn.ikia. We have 15 partners from 7 countries, and the project is at the final stage. The plan is to finish Syn.ikia project at the end of 2024. Here you can see the consortium members spread all around Europe, and you can also see our demo neighborhoods. Actually, these are real-life projects, neighborhoods that we follow from the early design phase during the construction, and at the final year of the project, we are focusing on the verification of the performance of the neighborhoods with a number of key performance indicators. So we have 4 demo neighborhoods spread around Europe, and 1 demo neighborhood is in the Netherlands, in Uden. The other one is in Barcelona. The 3rd in Fredrikstad in Norway, and the 4th one in Austria, Salzburg. So here you can see the number of housing units involved in the neighborhoods, but there are more. It's not only about the houses, but also the infrastructure or the other services in the neighborhood, like the school or a medical center connected to these buildings. In each of these demos, we have different innovations and a number of different approaches, but all of these neighborhoods have a goal to be sustainable plus energy neighborhoods. So to produce more energy from local renewable energy sources. So that's actually our mission, to increase the share of sustainable neighborhoods with a surplus in different contexts, climate, markets, and cultures in Europe. And the goal is to work in an integrated way, looking into energy efficiency, energy flexibility, but also regional supply of renewable energy and how to optimize the performance of these neighborhoods, but also looking at aspects like the architectural quality, the spatial qualities, the housing affordability, and the citizen involvement. Yeah, I don't want to say more because you will hear more from the speakers. That was a small intro, but perhaps Andreas would like to say a few words about access, and maybe Anna Maria or partner could say a few words about. Here we have Culturally. So, Wilmer, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. I'm Wilmer Pasut. I'm here on behalf of Anna Maria Belleri, who she cannot join today. I work at the University of Venice, and I'm here for the project Cultural E. Here you can read the mission. So, to define modular and replicable solution for plus energy buildings, accounting for climate and cultural differences. So, in the name, there is really this climate and cultural differences, because we aim in finding solutions for plus energy buildings that actually are looking at the differences between the different culture here that we have here in Europe. We have different way to use energy, different way to live our houses, different way to manage our buildings, and so we need different solutions if we want to reach the level of plus energy buildings. This is the consortium. The consortium is quite different, made of very different partners, from RTD partners, so there are different institutions, to project advisors, and that deals really with the development of the demo cases that we will see later on. We have four demo cases. And then we have technology providers. So we try to bring together research, we try to bring together designers, we try to bring together technologies, developers, to reach the level of conceiving these technologies, packages for plus energy buildings. In this slide, we try a bit to give you an idea of what we try to do. So we try to play on many different elements of the buildings, from the, of course, first and foremost, we need to deal with the energy efficiency of the building, because if we want to reach a plus energy building, first, we need to reduce the energy consumption. And then we work also on the production and so on. But we work a lot also on the users, because of course, building use energy for the users that are in that building. So we focus a lot also on the users to try to guide them toward a better control and a better use of the building. Just a few points about the technologies and how we deal with that. So we have, in terms of technology, we have active Windows systems, so windows that can open and close automatically according to the indoor and outdoor conditions. It seems an old technology, but we work also on ceiling fans as an energy efficient way to provide comfort in summer. And we know that summer is getting more and more important what concerns energy efficiency. So we need technologies that are capable to do so. So we managed to have a smart control of ceiling fans. And also we have this packaging pump system, this an advanced heat pump system that has also an internal storage for the control, for the climatization of the building. And then we have an interesting smart interface to guide the users, a sort of BMS for houses. These are the four demo cases. So we have four buildings that we start from zero, just from the design, and then we are right now building. One in France, one in Italy, one in Germany, and one is in Norway. Those are multi-family buildings, and we will see some a bit more later also. And the goal, and this one is the most advanced one, the Italian one, and the goal from the next year will be really to monitor to see if we manage to reach this target of plus energy. That's plus energy. If you want to know more, if you want to follow us, please take the time to take a look at this website. And if you have any question, I'm here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Please.
I will be very fast now because we're a bit behind time. Access, third of the system projects. Flexible, user-centric, energy-positive houses, whether a plus energy building or district is positive, critically depends on users. It's 5 years project. It started in 2019, but actually it ends later in November 2024. It was extended as for the other projects. 21 partners from 8 countries, 4 demos in 4 climate zones. And we have some more conventional technologies with complex settings, and we have more complex settings, more easy settings, and more experimental technologies. For example, I start with Graz. It's a multifunctional facade in a former industrial area. It's a food silo, and this facade can heat the wall, cool the wall, provide electricity. So it's a multifunctional package, and the users don't need to move out when the building is being renovated. So it's a key technology, a possible key technology for the renovation wave. You renovate and have a lot of people. Then we have a social housing complex in Hasselt, Belgium. It's a bit more conventional technologies. It's PVT on the roof, and the PVT feeds into a ground source heat pumps, and you have a seasonal storage. And you have a little wind mill on the top of the roof. But here, in both cases, the focus is on buildings, but of course, we cannot disconnect from the neighborhood. We also have to consider the entire area. So the same as the other projects, it was a call for buildings, but buildings are just an element of the district. In Helsinki, we have a very experimental demo, a 600-meter deep borehole fed by PVT and a high-efficient heat pump for seasonal storage. Because in summer you have too much PV, you have too much heat, but you can use it in winter. So you preheat the heat pump and the bedrock, and this is a seasonal storage and provides a lot of flexibility to the city, not only the building. And in Spain, we have a historical palace. It's in Valladolid, actually, not in Granada, it's a typo. It's historical palace in Valladolid. We have rather conventional technologies because all these restrictions regarding monument protection didn't allow us for a ground source heat pump. So we have an air source heat pump, PV, but we want to show how to make out of protected buildings, and in many in Europe, also plus energy concepts. This was my little overview, and
yes, and we would like to invite Zuhaib from the PIE.
Thank you, Niki. Thanks everyone for being here and discussing today about this topic, the agenda. And I'm going to start a little bit of background into multiple benefits, how we are trying to look into the aspect of multiple benefits within syn.ikia, and coming to the actual question of monetizing it. That's the big question today, and I'm going to share with you a little bit of insight into how we are doing it. We are not at the boundary line yet, but we are in the process of making it a reality and could help potentially a lot of stakeholders around Europe with the outcomes of this project. That's the main aim, and let's see what's there. So, of course, I come from BPIE, and we are a part of syn.ikia. I've been working actively on the project since the beginning with other colleagues, and now I'm the one working on multiple benefits topic specifically. So feel free to reach out to me in case you have questions in the future. I'm going to discuss a little bit about the definition of multiple benefits. It's a very, very important question and also worthwhile discussing today. Some general concepts and challenges that we are going through under multiple benefits. Identification of SPEN multiple benefits. That also something that we don't have an idea of what does this really mean. And finally, some insights into the quantification and monetization. So what are multiple benefits? We know that there are a lot of reports out there talking about the multiple benefits of energy efficiency. And one of the biggest reports that we know exists is from IEA. But we also know that there are many other projects who have started to look into the multiple benefits of energy efficiency. So the problem is that most definitions are limited to the energy impacts, and they are talking about the benefits of energy, but they're not talking about the non-energy impacts that buildings have on people, on communities. So this is what the basic problem of the existing definition is. And this is something that we are trying to look at critically within syn.ikia also. Multiple benefits of building sector are basically divided into 4 domains. We know that it is at the building occupant or at the owner level, such as the comfort of one person, the asset value that belongs to someone, having affordable homes. This is something that is more independent and more at the individual level. We can also talk about the societal level. This is a bigger level at the EU or national level. You talk about investments, you talk about energy and emissions reduction. So you see these things at a bigger scale, and how these multiple benefits can actually benefit on a governmental level with their budgets that they allocate and how they can benefit people on a macroeconomic level. There is also a level of cities and regions, which talks about the economic development through industrial productivity, producing local goods and local materials that could be used in the building industry, for example, local pollution reduction. So these are the dimensions that we look at cities and regions. There is also another dimension of industry, but we are not talking about too much, but it also brings one aspect of industry is the competitiveness in the industry. So if we are building buildings that should bring positive or multiple benefits to people, industry plays a major role. And this is also a multiple benefit that industry becomes more competitive. It produces products that are more competitive and available to people. And thus the driving forces behind is actually delivering multiple benefits to people through the industry. So these are some basic divisions that we know exist out there in terms of multiple benefits. People have, or researchers have quantified them at macroeconomic level, or maybe at individual level. Many reports them and talk about them. But we don't hear what are the multiple benefits of sustainable plus energy neighborhoods. This is something that we are trying to investigate. A lot of reports are out there. This is from IEA. They published some time ago. Maybe you can read a little bit about this. But this is just a glimpse of what has been there. In general concepts, the individual or micro level benefits basically talks about user well-being, economic benefits, and building quality. These are more focused on reducing health costs, for example, at individual level, talking about reduced exposure to energy fluctuations, energy price fluctuations, low operation and maintenance costs, and things like ease of use by a user. So those are some multiple benefits that are there. Now we are talking about these benefits in 2 terms. One is the qualitative term and another is the quantitative term. By just reading these, it is difficult to say, can we quantify them? Or we could just talk about them qualitatively, such as, for example, I'm feeling good inside this building. What does this good mean? Is there a metric that we can find out and we can quantify that metric and actually assign a money value to it? So basically, if I feel good in this building for 365 days a year, am I saving some money by feeling good? Or am I spending more money to feel good? These are the questions that comes around when we talk about quantifying something that is not easy to quantify. That's how these individual level benefits are looked at now in syn.ikia, and we are trying to investigate them from the point of view, can we actually quantify them? There are also wider societal level benefits. These are often quantified. Projects have done that before. So you could find a lot of reports talking about what impact does it make when we reduce the air pollution, when we reduce the mortality rate, when we reduce the GHG emissions. You can find a lot of reports actually quantifying the impact. So this is easier. And in fact, this information is available in public domain. So what challenges are there at the neighborhood level? The problem is that there are a lot of different terms that are being used about multiple benefits. Do we know, are these positive impacts, negative impacts? Are these policy level benefits? Are these benefits for different type of stakeholders? There is a lot of confusion in this world, actually. And I'm going to talk about this on the next slide, what these different terms actually mean. Then there's a problem about data. We don't have credible data to actually quantify the impacts of these multiple benefits. Coordination in building experts is missing. We don't have a unanimous understanding between the building sector or the construction sector. What does it really mean? How do we take into account into our assessments or evaluation? What are the different impact categories that we can actually utilize and accept them as standards? For example, in energy efficiency, we know there is primary energy consumption, there is final energy consumption. But for multiple impacts, do we have those impact categories very clearly laid out? It's not. So this is a vague area, and we are working towards that. And then, of course, there are lots of things that talks about making investment decisions. So the benefits for the homeowner are also not very clear. There's no clear understanding of what do they really want and how can we actually use that value to take the decisions. So the straightforward way is missing clearly. And that's how we are taking these challenges in syn.ikia. I was talking about different terms that I use in multiple benefits or multiple impacts. As you can see in this graphic, there are two axes. On the left side and on the right side, there are some unintentional impacts and there are intentional impacts of policies. So there's a division between them, and you can see the unintentional one are somewhat spillover effects or externalities, some aspects of a policy that are not taken into account when the policy is being made. So of course, when we are working on so many projects or policy making, we do a lot of quantification of the impact, but we don't take into account the unintentional one, and those are the ones that follow the left side. On the right side are the intentional one. These are direct costs or direct impacts that we see, and you can see these can be divided into co-costs, co-benefits, multiple benefits. These are different terms that are used. They can either be negative or they can be positive. So we have to take into account both of them. When there is an impact on the negative side, we take it into account. When it's positive, we sum it up. The idea is to take into account multiple benefits altogether, not the ones that are just positive. So in syn.ikia, we are looking at urban regeneration as one of our, I would say, path leaders, because urban regeneration has been looked upon as very critically that it could bring positive benefits to the existing neighborhoods that are there in Europe, because we are dealing with the existing structures. Urban regeneration brings a lot of benefits. This was a report that was done in BPI some time ago, and we tried to focus on different benefits such as new investment, health, energy, increased value of properties, lower energy bills, better living conditions. There are so many aspects that actually urban regeneration could bring at a neighborhood level, and that we try to capture that in that report. But we are taking it forward, and then we are trying to connect these positive benefits to SPENs as well. And this actually helps us to move forward with the existing knowledge that we have on multiple benefits at urban level. Now coming to the question of SPENs. So we are working on sustainable plus energy neighborhoods. This is an impact pathway that we construct to actually understand the impact of a project or a policy. What we did in syn.ikia, we have key performance indicators that were developed as a part of the project. These key performance indicators actually highlight what a sustainable plus energy neighborhood could be. So we try to connect these KPIs with added values or broader benefits that comes through a SPEN compared to an ordinary a neighborhood or ordinary buildings. So we are trying to understand what added values do these SPENs bring. And added values could be technical or non-technical. These could be such as use of renewable technology, having healthy buildings, fuel switch, digitalization, change in lifestyle and behavior, demand side flexibility. There could be so many added benefits of having SPENs. But what do actually they change? What impact do they make? This is what we try to map through this, and we try to take these values and map this change that it is going to bring. So if, for example, renewable technologies is bringing a change in an additional investment, it could also change in effective cost of energy services. So there are so many changes that are occurring due to those added values, and we try to map that first. Taking these changes to the final impact, that is something that we can quantify, is what we identify. For example, the endpoint impact of additional investment could be increase in market value of properties. It could be effect on internal rate of return. It could be effect on employment. So these, as you see, one change could actually bring so many impacts that we can measure. We can measure the employment that are brought in, for example, through 1 SPEN or 10 SPENs as a part of the policy. We can also look into disposable income. What impact does it have? Change on energy poverty. So basically, these effects are endpoint impacts that we can quantify. We are arriving at so many impacts, and this list becomes inexhaustible. I mean, or I would say it's exhaustible, and it gets so much complex because then there are interrelationships that we have to study. This is what we are doing in syn.ikia to a start. And this is just a tastemaker to how complex this becomes as we start looking into these impacts. So now comes the question of quantification. We have identified the impacts in syn.ikia. We are doing that as a regular process, and we are describing them, as Niki said earlier, into social, economic, and environmental categories. We know that the impacts on environment and economic side can be calculated very easily, but from the social side, it's such a challenge. And we are using different methods of quantification. We looked into different methods. So the method that we are looking at is the social cost benefit analysis as a central part of our work. Social cost benefit analysis is an application for welfare economics, and we use it to quantify social welfare impacts. And that helps us to actually understand that SPENs should deliver more value than it costs. And this is what CBA or cost benefit analysis is going to be used in syn.ikia. How we attach value to multiple benefits, there are several methods, but one of the key methods that of attaching value to a benefit is through willingness to pay. This simply means that how much I'm willing to pay, for example, for a benefit that I will receive through SPEN, whether it's access to nature, whether having a pathway for cycling, whether am I allowed to walk. So how much does it actually cost to me if I want these services within the SPEN? Maybe I'm ready to pay €100 a month to get everything. So this is my willingness to pay. However, willingness to pay is measured through two different methods. One is revealed preferences and stated preferences. Revealed preferences are basically data that is available in public domain, such as hedonic pricing. This relates to the real estate pricing, basically. You would know that, for example, there is a change in urban function of a city, and real estate prices have risen up in somewhere for some reason. Maybe it's because it's near a park or near a big lake, so real estate construction is happening, or you would find maybe people are willing to pay because it's far away from the city, less noisy. So those are the prices that we already have in the market. We use those ones as a measure of calculation. And travel cost method, how much are you actually willing to pay to live somewhere where you have access to better amenities and shared services, hospitals, schools. Those are the kinds of things that we already have. In stated preferences, we actually ask the end user. We use this method to ask them how much they are willing to pay, what choices will they make. So these methods are used to directly talk to the end user who wants to spend time in SPENs. We use these methods to do the calculation. Finally, a total economic value is calculated. In the very beginning, Niki talked about direct and indirect benefits. So this is what is actually we call in multiple benefits impact calculation use and non-use values. Use values are the direct benefits that we receive. Non-use values are the indirect benefits that we receive. And these are also accounted in this calculation so that there's a whole picture of multiple benefit impacts that we can actually quantify and monetize. Finally, I'm trying to finish it very quickly. We are working on a tool in syn.ikia where you can actually quantify these impacts and attach an economic value to many of them. This web application tool is under development, and early next year, this would be ready to be launched. So stay tuned for this, and it would be targeted on policymakers, investors, decision makers, so that each user can actually tailor it to their use and use it for the analysis, whether it's a project that is coming up or you want to compare different scenarios for policy. So there will be a lot of functions that will be a part of this tool. Probably there will be a dedicated syn.ikia event, not yet decided, but definitely it would be something that we are looking forward to have it from syn.ikia. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Zuhaib. That was really interesting. I feel that it was like a clear setting of the scene, right? to discuss, and then we invite Wilmer. Wilmer, yes?
Yes. So, hello again.
Yes.
Me again. So, very briefly, I will tell you on the work we are doing on co-benefit within the project culturally. Culturally, as a work package fully dedicated on the topic of co-benefits, because when we wrote the project, we already saw that there was a strong potential, and it was a topic that needs to be further investigated if we want to sustain the concept and the development of plus energy buildings. Just a few words on the team. This is the team that is working with me at the University of Venice. We just started at the University of Venice since 2018. And this is the team that is working specifically with us on the topic of plus on the co-benefits. So there is Francesco Bosello, for example, that is working at the University of Venice, but also at the Center for the Mediterranean Center for Climate Change, with two researchers dedicated on this specific topic. Why? Why are we talking about co-benefits? Because the path is long and not easy to reach the point that we justify from an economical point of view, plus energy buildings. So let's face it, let's be honest on that. Plus energy buildings, they have a huge potential, but from an economical point of view, it's not always easy to justify the extra cost of the plus energy buildings. So we need to look at the full picture before to come out with an answer and say, okay, from an economical point of view, it is convenient or it's not convenient. So the first work that we did is really, as researchers, we did a deep literature review on the topic of co-benefit. It was quite interesting because allow us to see the work that many other researchers, policymakers, and so on did over the last few years, not so many actually, on the specific topic of co-benefits. And actually, we work on this topic, and we discovered that actually the first time that this term of co-impacts come out in 2001 is from the IPCC report, and they are talking about co-benefits and co-impacts. Then we have 2007 with the fourth assessment report where we have again co-impacts, but also we have ancillary benefit, ancillary impacts. So many different terms. So we are not sure even in the name of this thing. And then we moved, Annex 56 probably did the most of the work in from several aspects. And they are specifically talking about co-benefits, but they call them co-benefits even for those that are not really a benefit. So if it's something that goes against my technology, is something that makes me use more energy, is not a benefit. So we need to come out with a new, not a new, but with another name that is capable to include the concept. And out of this name, the co-benefits is just a part, and that is co-impacts. So co-impacts are the added positive and negative values, other than direct and measurable impacts, which derive from high energy efficient buildings and related technologies. Co-impacts can be household co-impact if they have an effect on the user's well-being or household economy, or community co-impacts if they have a wider economic, social, environmental effect. So the co-impact is the thing, co-benefits is a part, and it's the part that makes better plus energy building, or if they are negative, they make them worse. And we will see some preliminary number coming out from the research that we are doing. So we know now we have a definition, clear definition for that. Now we need to categorize the different type of co-benefits or co-impacts. So if you look at the literature, there are many things, and they try to subdivide in many different ways. We already saw that there is this division between household and society as two main domains to which co-impacts may apply. But then there are other subdivisions, and if you look on the different documents, you can find inspiration to build what we did at the end. So at the end, we built this sort of matrix where we subdivide in user well-being, economic, environmental, and social co-impact. And for each of them, there is a different categories that can be attributed to the household or to the community level. So probably it's not worth for me now to go through each of them, but this is a sort of full list, everything that you right now can find in the literature, present in a way that is subdivided based on the different categories. So in this way, made for us easier, it's making us easier the evaluation and the quantification. Because at the end, we need to provide a price tag to each of these voids when we analyze a building. And if we are able to do so, then we are able to see if plus energy buildings are justified also from an economical point of view or not, beyond the direct effects that you can, of course, have. So we have two different approaches. So at the household, of course, is more, you're dealing more with the willingness of the users to pay also for the specific technology, for the plus that the plus energy building gives you, beyond the fact that the energy balance is positive. So in that case, to try to quantify a bit how much the user is willing to pay, we have this choice experiments that I will mention you later. That is not easy because it's very time dependent, because today maybe you're willing to pay X for a specific condition, tomorrow maybe will be Y. So, and we will see this, it's not going to be easy that part. And then there is the direct quantification. The direct quantification, we're almost done with that. It was not easy as well, we will see, but in a way it was easier because we can rely on many, many different sources to provide a price tag to each coin, direct coin. For the direct costing, this is the full list of different parameters that we consider in the analysis of the buildings. And we perform an analysis on the plus energy buildings that we are building in the four demo cases. So we have total use of renewable primary energy sources, total use of non-renewable primary energy sources, global warming potential, abiotic depletion potential for fossil resources. So the one that is on the top part are the most important in terms of values. The one that you can see here are other parameters that we consider. We put a price tag on that, but are in a way, in terms of magnitude, a bit less important than the one you saw before. So let's try to remember a bit some of these names, because later on we'll have.
Difficult to remember.
Yeah. I got them all. The Italian demo case. This is the Italian demo case. The Italian demo case is very special one because we have the unique chance to have an LZAP building. This is just a rendering, but it's how it will be. This one is an LZAP building. This one is a plus energy building. And this, the second plus energy building, just a bit bigger. So you will see that there is also a size element that impact here. So this one is the demo case in Germany. For Germany, it's going to be a bit tricky because, as you see, for Italy, we have a reference building against which we can compare. For the German demo case, we don't have a real reference building, so we made up one at the end. So this is, I'm not sure there is the image here. This is the comparison. Italian demo case A and B are the plus energy building. B is the bigger one. C is the NZAP. So we have the different, some of the elements that you see before, pair, and so on. You see the price, and we try to define not just a unique price, but based on what we found in the literature, we define a low, medium, and high price. We define a range of prices. It is a bit a more robust way to conduct this sort of analysis. I report just the most important elements here. What is important is the final number, total in euro per square meter a year. So here we have a total in terms of cost a year per square meter of these buildings, considering all the different parameters that you saw before. So as you can see, the plus energy building A, the smaller one, is more expensive, it's more impactful than the NZAP building in terms of final cost, in euro per square meter here. While the plus energy building B, the one is a bit bigger, actually it's less impactful from an economical point of view. And it's quite interesting. I mean, you don't save that much, but a couple of euros per square meter a year in terms of direct cost analysis of the co-benefits. Remember that all those parameters, they are co-benefits if they are positive, but they are negative co-impacts if the value is higher. For the German demo case, the NZAP is not a real building like we did for the Italian demo case. It's one based on average, now sort of average NZAP building in Germany. In this case, the plus energy building seems to be much more convenient from an economical point of view in terms of impact compared to the NZAP. Of course, the difference between these two is very related to how this NZAP has been considered. So I feel more robust in my saying that a plus energy building is better in the Italian demo case because we have a real building to compare with. But again, it seems that it's like that also for the German case. This is basically the same result, just we are reporting the total cost for the building euro per square meter a year for the NZAP, plus energy building B, plus energy building A, and you can compare higher, medium, and lower values for each of them. This is a full table, and where it's green means that the plus energy building was better. As you can see, there are several voices where the plus energy building is better than an NZAP building. And as we saw before, if we draw a line at the end, plus energy building is better. So the Italian demo case, in this case, for each of the voices that you saw in the beginning, we are doing the comparison. So we take the value for the plus energy building and we take the value from the NZAP building. We divide them. So if the number is higher than 1, that means the plus energy building is performing worse. If the number is lower than 1, the plus energy building is performing better. So as you can tell, there's several voices that where the plus energy building is performing better, and some other where the plus energy building is not performing as well. German demo case, same. I just leave you the slide so you will have a chance to read them and go through them.
Yeah.
The discrete choice experiment. This one is the second phase. We want to know how a user, a future building owner, person who's going to rent an apartment, is willing to pay for the feature of a plus energy building. So we will have this task with this discrete choice experiments. It will happen probably in the next couple of months. So we will have 2 countries, France and Germany, to capture heterogeneity across EU building stocks. 2 samples of 1,000 respondents each. So there will be these interviews with 1,000 respondents. Selection of relevant co-benefits. So we will present them relevant co-benefits and we will see how they react to them. We are defining the questionnaire. The questionnaire testing is one-on-one setting. Administration of the questionnaire by a reputable survey company. So there will be a private and external third company performing the questionnaire. So we are not getting involved in the questionnaire directly, which is good from a research point of view. And then we will perform some econometric analysis of collected data and WTP estimation. some crucial issues. We realized that in order to come up with a credible set of questions for French and German response, we need to reach a deep understanding of the house ownership and house renting. Right now, the situation is very strange, both in France, but especially in Germany. Right now, the perception in Germany, beyond the perception probably, is that the price of houses is too high. It's way too high. So it's quite tricky now to go to ask to a user, to household, are you willing to pay more? Because right now, in a way, they are already upset by the fact that they consider the price of their house a bit too high if they buy a new house. So we are trying to define properly the question to try to overcome all these issues. Plus, there are different balances between apartments or houses that are owned and apartments that are rented in the different countries. So we need to try to capture all these differences. And this is what we did with several interviews of key players in these two countries to try to grasp the situation in these two countries and come up with a proper questionnaire. So we update the initial questionnaires to include all relevant social demographic and sampling quotas questions tailored to national situation. Includes extensive section on attitude and knowledge about energy use, energy renovation, highly efficient buildings. Includes open-end evaluation questions about the values of the dwelling with and without radical energy renovations. So we need to understand what they know, and how they feel. Includes update attribute list. Includes follow-up question on the relative relevance of attributes for the respondents. Include final questionnaire question, example about how much, in the respondents' opinion, decision makers will take the survey result into account. And that helps us to understand. Do they believe in what they are answering? Do they know that what they are answering really matters, so they are paying attention to what they are doing and so on? So this is what we are doing. So the first part is already, it will be available soon with a report that will come up in the next couple of months. This second part, we are about to run it, and I believe that in the beginning of the next year, we will have the first answers also for the second part. Thanks a lot.
Yes, I would like to invite Joaquin. We are a little bit behind schedule. I don't know if 10 minutes are actually enough to give us an overview.
Yeah, I will try. I will try to introduce the policy roadmap. First, I have to say that it was very, very interesting, your presentation before, and I already convinced that the benefits of the PEBs, so I have to move to the other part, that is the designing policy roadmaps. And this is exactly what we are trying to do in the Access project. We are trying to develop some kind of guidelines for national, region, and local administration to guide them in transforming the construction sector. Because as you mentioned, you cannot say only its benefits, the benefit of PEBs, but if you don't have skilled workers and you don't have incentive scheme, and is not in your strategy to push the energy efficiency, you cannot move forward. So that is exactly what we are trying to do, to offer some kind of guidelines to national, regional, and local administration to move from the current situation of the construction sector to a more sustainable one. We will include a specific measure starting from the European legal framework. We have a range of legislation in Europe, and we have to start analyzing this legislation and go beyond this legislation. And I would like also to mention that this project and this product is come from the collaboration of multiple stakeholders. We have established within the SS project an external advisory board and with many stakeholders, different stakeholders, and we are incorporating all the inputs from these stakeholders. Other question to consider in the policy roadmap is that we need to consider different socioeconomic aspects. The legislation could be different in different climate zones. It should be adapted to rural or urban settings, to new or existing stock of buildings. So we have to consider different elements. Also, it's important that access is not only about buildings. We have to consider also the district and city level. And we would like to test this policy roadmap at the local level, incorporating the PEB policy roadmap in our local planning. We will see. We are working on that with different vertical plans. And this is more or less the policy roadmap. We have a first draft version of this policy roadmap. First, we try to define what is PEB and why it's important to incorporate in this PEB concept in the legislation. That is crucial. And then we analyze, as I mentioned, the legal framework at European level. And after this, we follow a coherent process. First, we try to identify what are the barriers, because coming from the barriers, we can propose a measure to overcome these barriers. So it's important to analyze well the barriers in the market to implement PEBs buildings and propose coherent measures to avoid them. And then, as Andreas commented, we have also pilot project, and we have also a lot of input from this pilot project, and we want to incorporate these inputs in the policy roadmap. And at the end, we define some line and axis of intervention that I will try to show very briefly because we don't have so much time. But starting from the legal framework, as I mentioned, we have a lot of legislation at European level. We have the renovation wave strategy. We have the package Fit for 55. The last one is the new energy efficiency directive approved last month. And unfortunately, there is no definition about that, no definition about positive energy building. The only things that are more, they refer to when a public building is refurbished, they have to be not near zero, but zero building, not positive building. So we will try with the amendment of the energy performance of building, we will try to see if we achieve to introduce this concept in the European legislation. As I mentioned, after the analysis of the legislation, we go to the technical, regulatory, financial, and social barriers. I will not go in detail, but as I mentioned, it was important to identify well this barrier, to propose measures that overcome these barriers. Some of them, the complexity of the PEB concept, the lack of integrator, or the lack of actors, or these new energy, new technologies emerging every time, and difficult to coordinate all the systems. Also in the regulatory framework and in social, as you mentioned, also it's important the lack of public awareness we have to work on this if we want to push the PEBs and also the financial barriers. Then we start to define lines and axes in 4 groups: policy regulation, business model and financing, technology and building, and social context. We have these first preliminary ideas coming from, as I mentioned, from this external advisory board, from the work of the Access project. If we talk about the policy, it's clear that we need a specific regulation to push positive energy buildings, not in the European legislation, as I mentioned before, but we expect to do so, and we need to transform this European legislation to national, local, and regional legislation. It's important to incorporate energy targets in our legislation, and specifically referring to PEBs, we have to incorporate life cycle effects. If we want to have a building that produce more energy than consume, is necessary to facilitate also the interconnection of this building with the grids. Another measure proposed is to reduce the administrative formalities when we want to implement a PEB, or create some kind of PEB observatory as a guide tool, or a code of good practices. There are a lot of measures, and the idea of us from this initially measure is go in detail how we have to develop this measure, and as I was mentioning at the beginning, how to adapt to every region or climate zone or new construction or existing constructions. We have identified also a lot of barriers on financial issue, and we have again diverse measures proposed. For example, we have to design a very innovative financial framework for this kind of building to overcome, as you mentioned, you have to pay more if you want to build this. So we have to foresee some measures to avoid this overcost of this kind of building. For example, introducing a CO2 tax, or it's true that we cannot do that only with public money. We need private financing, and we need to convince the private actors to invest also, like banks and so on. We have to take advantage of the ESCOs, so we have to convince them of the benefit of PEBs, and we need more collaboration, inter-collaboration between different sectors. In technology, we have also to adapt this PEB to the construction sector. We have one of the proposals was to reinforce the project management role. Training and certification of the skill of the workers is also important. Smart energy management, peer-to-peer advice, also to prioritize the effort at regional level in the construction sector. We have, as a region, we have limited budget for research, so it's necessary to focus the research in areas that are important for energy, and PEBs is important. The promotion of innovative projects, initial demonstration and pilot projects, promotion of measures to aim to advise, and the last one is the last line is very important. That is the social and context user. We have to work a lot in improving the knowledge to the public sector. We can start with the public buildings, convincing them that they are owner and they are the biggest buyer at the European level, so they can push a lot PEB buildings. So we are working in defining concrete measures to avoid this unawareness of this, and we want also to define a specific measure for people in vulnerability, for energy poverty people. Some measure that has been proposed is create some kind of network of energy ambassadors to communicate better the PEB concept and the benefits and the possible incentive scheme that are foreseen for them. Also, the local energy communities is important. If we introduce the concept and incorporate the people in vulnerability in these energy communities, where PEBs could be also a good element for that. The promotion of pilot projects, and also when we design incentive scheme, consider especially the case of the people in energy poverty to focus the subsidies in these people, and promoting the PEBs in these within these buildings. And what next? We are, as I mentioned, we have the first draft version. Is a preliminary version of the policy roadmap. We want to continue developing this because we have a lot of we have another tax in the program. We have, for example, we are doing also a cost optimal solution of PEBs. We are analyzing the cost of this and analyzing the cost of the technology in different climate zones. So we will have more details about how to define precisely the incentive scheme. If they are more costly, we need to foresee adequate incentive scheme for that. We are analyzing different business models that should be reinforced with the policy roadmap. And it's important for us to replicate the model. We are working on the replication plans from this demo project to the whole Europe. So each demo are preparing its own replication plan, and we will take this in consideration when we are defining the policy roadmap. So we will integrate all these results to generate a more advanced version of the policy roadmap. And again, we will have the inputs of the external advisory board and also the sister project, maybe, to integrate all these inputs. Of course, for me, it's quite interesting as the result of both of your projects. And yes, we expect to present the policy roadmap in the last meeting next year. That's it for all from me.
Yeah, I think there is a slide with some questions, but
okay, yes.
But
yes.
we don't,
okay, the question.
we can leave it for this part. Yeah. So I would like to thank the speakers for the insightful presentations. Actually, a lot of knowledge related to the multiple benefits. So I think now it's time to interact here in the room, but also online with the participants. We have identified some questions, but these are questions coming from Access. Or you want to start with a Slido, Andreas?
Who decides?
I decide, then we go to Slido. Use again this code. Are you ready? Yeah. So here we have the first question. Which technologies can be easily considered applied by architects, designers, engineers when designing positive energy building, plus energy building, and neighborhoods, I would say. But let's start with the buildings. Which technologies can be easily considered or applied when designing the ambitious, highly energy efficient buildings? Photovoltaics, staging technologies like passive measures or photovoltaics, very popular. Highly energy efficient windows and building skins. This depends on the climate zone. Yes, the design is always should be adapted to the climate. The passive design and the solutions, the technical solutions, deep geothermal energy, enveloped building management system, yes. So prioritize renewables, prefabricated modular panels for renovation. Deep geothermal, passive solutions, behavioral interventions, seasonal energy storage. So it seems that we have a variety of different solutions, but then it's like the integration and optimization, the solutions according to typologies and climate and culture and trees. We want more trees.
It's easiest one.
Yeah, nature. Okay. Should we move to the next one? Yeah. Which factors are the most relevant for urban planners when designing SPENs, sustainable plus energy neighborhoods? We have some planners here today and in the chat. Which factors? Site-specific needs. Yeah. The land use. So we are moving from technologies to the building level to more to the district or neighborhood or connected to the city planning. Site-specific needs, the land use, the mixed use, mobility, how the users are going to use the building, or this, of course, the social context, the zoning, the availability of the grid, the density of the buildings, different types of renewable energy sources and storage. That's it. And microclimate and regional policies. Yeah, so there are many aspects and factors to be considered when planning, as you can see. Okay, but do you have any professional experience in considering co-benefits when designing a project at architectural, urban scale? You decide the scale, but do you have experience with co-benefits? Okay, many people have experience here, partially, at least. Good question, because we talked about different definition, multiple benefits, co-benefits, extra benefits, and which are the additional benefits, not only the energy performance, the energy savings that we have when we have these ambitious projects, or the extra, like when it comes to health, the users, or taking into account other aspects, environmental aspects. I think that was the background of this question, right?
Anything non-energy.
Anything non-energy. We know the energy, we forget about it.
And the other,
Yeah, the other.
the more social, political.
Social, environmental, economical, but yes, also looking at different scales, I guess.
Maybe it's the word benefits that is intrinsically economic. If we talked about impact, it would be more
tangible.
Broad?
Yeah.
Or more
It's
broader.
Broad.
I would say, yeah. So we were also inspired about the different definitions. Maybe we need to agree. Is it multiple benefit, co-benefit, extra benefits, impacts, co-impacts? I would like to hear actually your reflection on that. The speakers first, I would say. I triggered the discussion now with, how do you feel, Zuhaib, with all these different definitions?
Thanks for your question. It's very interesting as a researcher also, and also working in the building industry for quite some time. Multiple impacts gives a connotation of having something both positive and negative. It does not tell you the scale is on which side. That's the connotation that comes with this word. Of course, it's being used in different contexts by researchers, and they consider positive and negative impacts, and that's how it's more of multiple impacts in general. But when we talk about multiple benefits, it comes with a positive connotation, usually something positive. And this positive can be for individuals, it could be for society, it could be indirectly for others. If we are creating a spend for ourselves, maybe we are creating a benefit for flora and fauna, which is, in neighborhoods, for other people who are living nearby. So we are indirectly giving benefits to others also. But it would come at a cost which could also create some indirectly negative benefits also, which would be more investment from the government, more negative impacts that could be accounted for developing a land in nearby place and changing maybe an existing cultural hub which was there, or maybe it could be a social change that we could bring. So there could be a negative aspects as well. But with multiple benefits, it always comes as a positive benefit in mind. I think it's a good way of selling it to people. Otherwise, just talking about multiple impacts, it's a bit of difficult word to sell it to the industry, especially talking about people who want to invest, like investors, developers, financial institutions. So the market angle is an important aspect that we are talking about today, and also policymakers are looking at this word very critically. So they talk about multiple benefits. I think more you hear one word, more you tend to use it. So I don't have a specific choice to make here, but I think this is how it has evolved over the past. And of course, the research that was shared recently, there has been so much evolution of this impacts over the past years that it is very difficult to choose one. But if used in the right context for the right purpose, I think all of them will.
Yeah. Yes.
On my side, was it a G-Spot conference, and the term positive impact districts emerged, because then you have impacts and you have positive in front. So positive impacts is also, you can also market it. But in general, I think the term co-benefits is established since 20 years in literature. So I would stick to it.
Others?
Yeah, for me, it's a matter really. It's just a matter of taxonomy. Yeah, it's a matter of definition. Impact is everything. So co-impact is the main domain.
Yeah.
Co-benefit is a subsection of this main domain. It's just a matter of calling them. So if there is something that is positive, it's correct to call them co-benefit. If there is something that is completely either positive or negative, it's a co-impact. Because you don't know if it's because saying that there is a negative co-benefit, it's misleading in terms.
It's contradictory.
Yeah, it doesn't work. I mean, it's just a matter of main domains and subsection.
So yeah, I was talking with some partners from the project that are economists, and they have the term. It's also established in economics externalities. So it can be both positive and negative, but I wouldn't advocate for like a neutral. I think it should be policy driven, and it should. I think there is the GRC report on multiple benefits of energy efficiency and including them in the cost benefit analysis. So I think if there is, and there are these EIA reports, so I think once the policy, if they use multiple benefits, we should go on with one, but that we all understand what we mean. And I think it should be more like policy driven rather than like something like sterile and like a very correct scientifically, but if it doesn't click to the policymaker in 1 second, then you don't speak the same language, then you're not efficient. Joaquin?
Yes, I agree. I agree with just a positive impact is could be, but multiple benefits is very on the table for policy making.
Okay, so in line with the policy.
We also have inputs from the Zoom participants, as just saw.
Yes, I don't see them.
Okay.
But I see the answers here. Yeah.
If I may, Mia from VTT says impact is more realistic, benefits is better for marketing. Maria Beatrice Andriucci said co-impacts as both plus minus should be considered as well as trade-off. Role of design in terms of impact is crucial. Trade-off knowledge is key. So it adds to the disagreement we have in the room.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, but this is what we was, yeah, that's reality. Okay, so let's move to the next question. We see here that partially 50% is has professional experience. And if you answer yes, most of you have answered yes. Which co-benefits at the community or household level are the most relevant to you? Different benefits, but which is relevant for you? As an individual, as you're looking at your household, or looking at the community, the neighborhood, even city level? Cost savings. Environmental and health related ones. Health benefits, local air quality, emissions, comfort, community productivity, employment generation, sustainability, adaptability, quality of life. All of these are equally important, it seems. Comfort and quality of life. That's the final verdict. Okay. And which co-benefits are relevant to you and were not mentioned today? Something that we did not mention. And this is important to you. Yes. Oh, well, speak up. I mean, we don't have to use necessarily the Slido. Slido is mainly to you. It's nice also to interact directly. Because Slido is also for the participants online. And yeah. But you can use your voice. Education. Green gentrification.
I would argue that's a positive impact of green gentrification.
Green gentrification.
I would say that's a negative impact. Because green should be accessible to all.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be a price attached to have more green areas.
But when we think of co-benefits, we should also think of prices, right?
Yes. How much are we willing to pay?
Or the willingness to pay. But then, based on your presentation, Wilmer, it was like difficult to pay.
It's very strange because the willingness to pay is a very slippery concept that is pretty much connected with the historical moment that you are living with because, for example, right now, the price of energy is high and is going up. So maybe there is a price that users are willing to pay right now that is not going to be the same in 5 months, and it's not going to be the same if the house market will change and so on. Still an interesting topic, just to at least to understand what's the value in a way, not always money, but what's the value in the mind of users attached to that specific benefits.
There is also an option in real estate market. There are many reports talking about people valuing certain aspects of properties when they are buying into them. It's very common. I would take just my example. If I was looking for a property, I would look for something that have south orientation, for example. I want sun to come inside my house. I want good cross ventilation. And I would like the building to have at least certain energy rating. All of those actually amounting to something. When I'm asking for all these things, there could be 10 points, which I'm looking into properties in the market. If maybe 2 of them are offering me 2 more benefits that I think would be really good for my health, especially having a southern facing apartment because I like sun. For my mental well-being, it's important. I'm ready to pay extra for the housing for property in that means. Now that amounts to something. And this is what actually is captured in hedonic pricing of real estate market. And actually we can use this data to translate it into a value and actually put the value as a multiple benefit of property that people are buying into. Same would be the case of SPENs, because SPENs would be designed, or maybe urban regeneration would happen from the perspective of providing better health to people by improving the condition of buildings, or maybe with new projects we will have so many other dimensions added to that. So this is a way of doing it with the existing information that is there in the real estate market, but also with the, of course, the willingness to pay something that is more of a stated preference of people. We ask them, we find out, we do the surveys, and we capture that information to see what a value could be assigned to a benefit that is not yet captured in the market and actually socially beneficial to people, and people want it, but such as life satisfaction. There are many things, a lot of research around satisfaction, but there are many indicators that people would like to attach a value to that satisfaction. And what does it really mean in monetary terms? So am I willing to pay for my satisfaction? What satisfaction I'm looking at? These are very critical things, but if we start dividing them into pieces, it becomes a complex piece. But we have to see which are the most important words for the people, what they really want, especially for the residents, ask them, list them, and maybe go just take one step ahead slowly in this direction, because this knowledge is building up slowly. And I think existing research needs to come up more in normal public domain and to policymakers to make more sense of it. What is more?
Yeah.
I have one question to Joaquin, because he's policymaker. Joaquin, now you saw the many core benefits mostly. Which of them do you think could be easily included in policymaking funding, which are more challenging?
Yes, there are a lot of this. Of course, the energy, the objective of energy is important, but there are a lot of other benefits. You mentioned, for example, the generation of employment or the increase the competitiveness of industries. Even health is important. I have an example in UK. They have a program that is called Warm and Well, and it's the National Health Service who finance the rehabilitation of the buildings because they reduce the cost of the health services, promoting this rehabilitation of buildings. So it's true that when you are planning a policy roadmap for PEBs, you have to think in many impacts and many opportunities. It's not impacts, but opportunities that you have with this.
I saw that someone added investor confidence, and I think this can be also related with policymaking because at the EU level there is the EU taxonomy for green activities, so there is a guideline of like all kinds of environmental and social KPIs for that also regards the construction sector. So you know, if a building is ticking the boxes of this ESG finance or EU taxonomy, then it's also a more investable asset for the financial sector. So we're not talking, so here we're also talking about money in the end, right? Because yeah, there are all these social benefits, but how exactly how can you put them and how can you given that like a PEB building is much better than business as usual, or a SPEN is much better than a business as usual, like renovation, new construction. If you prove that, okay, what do you get as a developer or as a resident? Because there is this kind of how that, okay, investors don't want to have stranded assets.
Yes.
So they think of the, you know, so if the policy says, okay, we want a building stock that, you know, is highly performing, but that's also like taking into account environmental and social aspects, then the investments will go ideally.
Very interesting comment.
So like future-proof kind of like also for homeowner, like if the regulations always change and the, you know, the requirements is from NZEF to ZEF to PEB, then if you have PEB, then you're sure, like you can, you know, you're worry-free for the future. You know you're invested in a good asset.
I saw two hands. Thank you, Victoria, Clara, and Caroline. First, Clara.
Yes, I have the impression that we're talking at two different levels. One is the private market, and then another one is the public sector. In the different EU-funded projects, again, we have developments that are publicly subsidized and publicly funded, and others that are managed by real estate developers. So I think making this difference, because the benefits and the drivers are different and the triggers are different to the public sector and to the private sector. So when we're talking about increasing tax revenues, that's obviously a benefit for the public good and the public sector. When we are talking about benefits in saving public health costs, that's also benefits for the public good and the public sector. When we are talking about real estate investment, there are other types of benefits we have to take into consideration.
Caroline?
Yes, I'm thinking, I'm wondering aloud if there's room to discuss co-benefits from a phased approach. Because I think, first of all, the neighborhood way of building, designing, constructing, operating buildings needs to be mainstream first. And until then, you can then consider the other impacts, if you like. And I do find this the term co-impact's quite refreshing because it's sort of like a neutral way of discussing what PENs and PEBs can bring about. But first of all, I'm thinking maybe a phased approach would be less overwhelming to investors and policymakers, because first of all, you need to mainstream this way of building and designing first. And if supposing a certain percentage of penetration is achieved, then you can talk about this other impacts of green gentrification and others. But to have it all at the same time seems to be very overwhelming and overlapping as well.
So a gradual development towards SPENs and PEBs.
A phased approach
A phased
discussing the benefits. First, but the benefits will be brought about if we mainstream PENs. Then once they're mainstream, then these other impacts could be considered. Yeah.
Thank you, Caroline. I move to the next question, which is also relevant. Do you think co-benefits improve the property value?
Maybe I would like to take a physical answer. Yes, they do. We have found a lot of evidence I was discussing before about in the real estate market, people do value the buildings which have good ventilation systems, which are healthy in their opinion, and they do have a higher pricing. Even real estate companies are selling the units which are in the same building, perhaps in a different orientation with a different size. Only on small things, there's a price tag that they're attaching to. And if you ask them the reason, why is it so? Because people demand this thing, and that's what they put a price to. And those are the things that are about that are more related to co-benefits that would occur in that particular unit. Even if it's the same kind of building, same construction, but with just different orientation, there are different aspects. If you have a better site, better facing view, maybe to a green area, of course you pay more. So these are the premiums people are paying in the market to get co-benefits, and that does the change in property value. So it's a very direct relation, and many of these impacts are already recognized. Now we are looking at them to quantify them in more detail.
It seems everyone agrees. Okay, do you think it's necessary to act at the policy level or at the housing market level, including co-benefits in the business models of real estate companies? Yes, no, not sure. Somehow I feel that I can predict the answer.
That's easy.
Yeah, we thought maybe at the end we should make it easier. So everyone says, yeah, we should act on different levels. Clara, I see you are a bit skeptical.
I'm not sure I understand the question though.
There are two questions.
Yeah, there are two questions. And there are parentheses also. No, I mean, yeah, the question was suggested by you, Andreas, I think.
It was a bit reformulated, but it was, I think, a merged question. I think the first part is quite easy. Of course, you want the policy level to act. Second part is much more difficult. How can we create framework conditions for the real estate markets? It's less tangible for us.
May I take a small point here? We have been working on energy performance certificates for quite some time. We see that there's a growing demand and need for energy performance certificates, but we have worked on a project Extendo recently where we are introducing new indicators, such as the level of comfort inside the building. And this is something that could be recorded on EPCs in the future, that changes are going to happen soon. And when one is buying a building, they are looking at energy performance certificate, it's mandatory. Side by side, they can also see the comfort level that could be achieved in that building in summer and winter time. That would already give an idea, should I buy into this property or not? I would already know that I would have benefits of living in this building because the comfort level is greater for example, 200 days in a year. And it is really useful for me. So having specific market indicators and identification is important. Including them in the policy to be able to actually transfer it to the market is very important. For example, EPCs have done that. If they have come through policies, specific indicators are there. We need policies to set up those indicators so that the market could adapt them and use them when a buyer is buying into a house. He or she knows there are 5 benefits that we are asking you to pay for. And you get, for example, low, medium range in that. For example, for comfort, for a higher level of comfort, you pay X amount, but you are being very transparent and fair when you're putting an amount to a property. This is not yet the case. There is just an amount, asking amount. You don't know what you're paying for. You don't know how well the building is going to perform in the future in terms of comfort. You just know the energy performance. There are many aspects we can look at.
I saw 2 hands. First Clara, and then Clara.
Yeah, maybe it's worth asking ourselves the question, who should benefit from this? Because if we attach real estate and property value to this comfort and this well-being, who's really benefit from these qualities of spend? So are we going to reinforce the inequalities that we have in a city and segregate wealthier people into certain neighborhoods, spend and neglect others? So who should benefit from all of these technologies and approaches that we're developing if we attach property value and prices to them?
Yeah.
This is actually a very interesting comment. Anyway, going back to what you were saying, for example, I have several times I'm thinking about myself as first, that if you're a hammer, you see only nails. What I mean with that is that we are so used to think about buildings, think about comfort in buildings, that we think that people think about buildings as we do. But actually, it's not always like that. What we notice, for example, I give a very high value to comfort, especially because that's one of my main topics of research. But what I notice is that if you are able to give a proper value to comfort only if you try that. So if you live in an energy efficient and very comfortable house, you won't go back. You won't go back to an energy inefficient house. But if you live in an energy inefficient house, you don't even know really what does it mean living in a very energy efficient, comfortable house. So you're basically not able to provide any value to that. And actually, if I ask you what's the value to that, you probably say just a little. And again, going back to the original comment that I made, even when we for a second detach from the idea of what we are doing and we look on what, and we try to answer that question, if we go back by a couple of questions, when you ask about the co-benefits, there was not a single co-benefits that was really related to plus energy buildings.
This is also my thought. It's what's related to technology.
Mental health, you can have a mental health in any type of building, it's not just a mental plus or plus energy building.
A well-designed building then,
Yeah.
like a good architectural values or
So
qualities.
in a way, it's very difficult to provide a value to something because so often it's based on the previous experience that we have, and that is something that helps us to provide a value. I think it would be nice to have, in a way, an energy certificate that tells you how comfortable you are or not in a building. But in a way, I think it's also very difficult to do that. Something that we know for sure is that LEED certified buildings are on average sell an higher price than regular energy efficient buildings, for example, because usually they attach a higher price value to that because they think that the life inside of that building is going to be in a way better somehow, even if they don't even fully grasp. But is thermal comfort going to be more important than am I close to a park? I'm not sure about that. Is going to be thermal comfort more important that house is a better distribution of internal space? That's, I think, it's going to be tricky for what we deal with these plus energy buildings. That we're trying to sell strongly something that we are not sure that the users really value right now. And it's going to be interesting to see, actually, from the experience, for example, that we will do, what will be really the price tag that we put on these different things. I'm quite curious about that.
I have a question if I may.
Yeah, but there is also a comment first, and then Andreas.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know your name.
It's fine. I'm I'm an architect. I've been working for some years. I'm based in Berlin and Antwerpen. I recently founded my own company and I'm sort of focused on sustainability for a long time. I went into working with existing buildings because it's even more sustainable. So I'm kind of interested now in where, sustainability is taking us. It's kind of like taken over us. It's a religious thing, almost, and it is. And it's interesting to think about how we approach it as well, and why we're doing it. And what I'm hearing now is kind of that it's a lot of values and a lot of numbers and like data collection, like how do we calculate these things? How do we prove to people that it's working? And it's hard. And I feel like the most important thing that I just thought of now was actually rather why are we doing it in the first place? Like who's a benefactor, right? So that's what Clara said. It's like what's the point? And I think what my opinion is, my point of view is that why did I do it? I just thought, okay, what's my perspective? Maybe it's different for you, or why you are interested in sustainability. For me, it's, for saving resources and the environment, so maybe that should be the benefactor, and I think we all deep sort of, know that's where it comes from, maybe. And then, the next step is not only how do we make sustainable buildings, but how do we reuse them afterwards? That's what I want to think about. That's the future, and that's what we should consider, and not only in the way that the buildings are made, but also how we might change our lifestyles in the future. So how those buildings could be adapted to different lifestyles.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing in.
But to get there, this is what we're doing now, right? Is to kind of think about how do we quantify that, and how do we get people to make the right investments? That's where we need to figure out how to prove, first of all, that it's working, and then secondly, that it's quantifiable, and then to make sure that people are making the right investments. And that's not my job. But it's nice to share that with you all, because I'm just focused on the building part. And I think that's something we really need to think about, is adaptability, especially in Europe, or in the world, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. So you have two hands out, but it was Andreas and Victoria who
Very
was
little question only.
quick question.
Regarding property value, obviously it may increase, but did you calculate also a decrease of property value if you do nothing? This may be also a trigger, avoiding a decrease of property value.
So talking about property value, we have been looking at some indicators, especially the depreciation because of maybe a highway that came across, and the decibel noise per meter square, how much is happening. We started taking these indicators into account because it's a very important point when somebody's buying into a property, how noisy it is from outside.
Okay.
And it has a very, very steep impact on the property prices. So this is something that we are using in our analysis, and creating indicators that should be valuable to different stakeholders. The question that was raised by Clara was about looking at different stakeholders. What we are doing, we are mapping the impacts against the stakeholder. There are many stakeholders for whom it could be of high value, for example, a resident, or it could be of low value to a developer. But then there could be another impact that could be of high value to the opposite. Yeah, so there are many. And this is a wide matrix of impacts. And this is what we are trying to bring into the tool. So when you select, you as a developer want to evaluate a project, then there will be a list of impacts that are more relevant to you. And then you can actually select them, analyze the project or policy. So we are trying to make it a bit simpler for the user, focus on the impacts that are more relevant to them. Sometimes it could be that you won't really get any benefit if you're investing into something, the impacts are not directed to you, but just to the end user. So we have to see what is the weight of the impacts and have that calculation in place for that purpose.
Yeah, before Clara, it was also Victoria. Who is next? Victoria, I think.
I think I raised hand after your
Yes,
comment,
we
because
lost
well, like going back to the previous, I think we're putting a lot of burden on the homeowner, because many of these KPIs or parameters, they're very complex, and they're complex methods behind it, and there are most of them related with real energy consumption. So all the comfort, like, and so I'm a bit skeptical in putting everything into the energy performance certificate, because that's just a photo and it's about the building. It's not about the user interacting with the building. Now we will have increasingly more and more real consumption data from both, like this allow positive energy neighborhoods. They have this monitoring of indoor environmental quality, of real energy consumption. So all this like big amount of data is supposed to go eventually into the digital building logbooks. That is something new introduced in the EPBD. So the homeowner will have access to all this like huge amount of data that we can, with different methods, make sense out of this data to calculate the different co-benefits for different, I don't know, renovation scenarios, or different, I don't know, impacts, yeah, for investors, for policymakers, etc. But I think it's up to the homeowner to grant access to the other people, like architects, investors, banks, that, or like if they want to set up a renewable energy neighborhood in the district, and they can grant access, you know, so they functionally can grant access to different stakeholders that help them take different decisions, and or the decisions can be also made by the bank, if like what kind of loan he has access to, etc., etc. So I don't think that everything should be like only about like very like kind of, you know, very kind of easy to grasp answers just for the homeowner, because not all the decisions are taken by me, but there should be more complex data behind that can help other type of decision making, both for investors, for policymakers, for, I don't know, or different companies providing them different options for innovation, etc. So it's up to other stakeholders to make sense out of data and present to the homeowner with choices.
Thanks, Victoria. It's a very inspiring discussion. I think there are many items. And I also noticed that somebody said, make it simple, because I think it's a little bit complex, at least the methodological part. But Clara wanted to add.
Yeah, just to echo what Zuhaib says, that it's important to differentiate and the different drivers attracting different stakeholders. I understand the importance of raising the impact on the property value that SPEN can have to attract investors from the private sector, but it's also important to acknowledge the context we are in at policy level politically. So we're in a huge housing crisis. Housing prices have never been so high. There was a hearing at the European Parliament in Strasbourg last week, highlighting the housing crisis that we're living in, the unaffordability. So to highlight the benefits for policymakers, governments, public sector, I'm not sure property value should be the direction we want to go in. Because governments are trying by all means to control housing prices, short-term rentals in cities, because this is really extortionate. So, yeah. I saw somewhat the affordability as well.
Yes, it came first when then many comments added. It was the question, what else is needed to take these co-benefits into account? So to whom are these benefits for? Make it simple, comprehensive, and robust tools. Regulations should be enabling rather than restricting. Regulations, social justice, equity, and it was affordability there. Yeah, so these were the questions that we have prepared, but are there more questions? I guess we have so many questions, and
I have one maybe for everyone here. We are looking into the concept of sufficiency for quite some time now. It brings me to the thought of what is the size of these co-benefits for me as an end user or any stakeholder. When we put everything to the lens of sufficiency, things boil down to a very simple level. They reduce, the scale becomes very small. And then I think about co-benefits of that. Do you think the concept of sufficiency can have a stronger relationship with analyzing co-benefits in the future, because we are working on it? So your feedback would be really helpful. If you understood my question, maybe I can try to give a little bit more context. In sufficiency, we are looking to standardize, for example, the amount of space required per person from the square in different cultural or context in different countries, and have this as an understanding that this is what a person would need. And then amounting it or multiplying with the family size, understanding that the dwelling size ideally, which positive energy neighborhoods could actually take on, and then analyze the co-benefits. So there is a lens that we can look at of sufficiency from that perspective. It could complicate things, but it could also simplify that we are not looking at buildings which are huge, big real estate, big buildings, and telling them that they have a lot of co-benefits. But we are looking at a simple module, simple size, and they are generating co-benefits for it. So I'm just trying to think there a little bit.
Yeah, I really am strongly against increasing sufficiency to just square meters per capita, because that's a way to maybe finally quantify the policies that has a good impact or not. But I would think of sufficiency in terms of more like different types of uses of the same space and the different types of time. So then you need less, but then what is this square meter per capita? Because if some space is commonly used and some is individually, and it can be one use in the morning, another one in the afternoon. So how do you really quantify what is per capita? So it's more like a smart use of space. And I think in general, like positive energy SPENs and the neighborhood approach has added value to this, because you can have this like public space, semi-public space, shared space, private space, and then you can play with them to say, okay, which are the uses that you want to achieve, and not think of just square meters per capita. So it's more like shared spaces, shared uses, different rotating uses of those spaces, and like redefining the problem rather than thinking like, oh, the solution is people live in small flats. No, it's like
already I think we've stated many co-benefits of sufficiency, which could come into account.
Yeah, so it's maybe more designed for adaptability, designed for flexibility, but also with a life cycle thinking. The whole life cycle, right? So I think we have reached it's 1 o'clock, and we can talk for hours, but we have to stop here. We can also have a coffee and continue our discussion. But I would like to thank all the participants and the speakers and everyone here, but also online, very active, engaged participants. Thank you so much. I hope it was inspiring to you. It was very inspiring to me. And we stay in touch, and especially we should work more together. Maybe we can organize another workshop as a follow-up in a few months, which is the progress. So it's also, thinking, it's always nice to say until we meet again. So see you in the next workshop.
Thank you, Niki.
Thank you all.